Sweden is a small country, but its military industry is one of the best in the world. Just remember the A-26 electric submarine. But that's a topic for another video. Today, we're going to be showing you the new Swedish fighter jet, which should curb Russian ardor in the Scandinavian region. Like Lockheed Martin, Saab has pioneered military aviation, except they did so on Swedish soil. After the introduction of the second-generation Saab 35 Draken supersonic fighter and the third-generation Saab 37 Viggen, the country had a need for an affordable fighter that could reach Mach 2. Engineers were asked to reduce the size of the Viggen while improving its performance, especially the payload. One of the proposals was a Saab 38, but that project would take a while to get off the drawing board. The McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornet and Northrop F-20 Tiger Shark were seen as model aircraft. Swedish engineers were often inspired by the work of their American colleagues when developing their fighters. The very abbreviation JAS, jacked, air-to-air, attack, air-to-surface, and spanning, reconnaissance, was not chosen at random, since this was the aircraft's very task. The most promising idea was Project 2105, which was the basis for the future fighter. Nevertheless, many changes were made in the development process, so Project 2105 eventually became Project 2108, and then Project 2110. In 1982, the project was funded. The authorities signed a contract with Industrigruppen JAS to build a new fighter and 5 JAS-39 prototypes, followed by the purchase of 30 aircraft in the first batch. The first prototype was revealed in 1987, and its first flight was scheduled to take place at the same time. But it was postponed until 1988, after which the Gripen finally took to the skies. But fate was not on the prototype side. A few months after the first flight, an error occurred in the fly-by-wire software, which, coupled with strong winds, led to an accident. The pilot managed to eject with only minor scratches. By 1991, Saab had solved all avionics and software problems by successfully testing new Gripen prototypes. Amid this, the authorities bought a second batch of fighters, and in 1993, the first production model, JAS-39A, was produced. Sweden put it into service in 1996. The aircraft was designed with the canard aerodynamic, with the horizontal wingtip in front of the main wing. On the Gripen, the triangular wing is placed in the middle, and the airframe of the fighter, consisting of 60,000 parts, is designed with reduced radar visibility in mind. Composite materials account for 30% of all materials, which allowed the engineers to increase the aircraft service life by up to 50 years. Considering the design features of the fighter, the specialists had to think about how to increase the fighter's maneuverability. Due to the shift of the aerodynamic focus backward from the center of mass, there could be problems with controllability. To solve this problem, the latest fly-by-wire propulsion system was used. For safety reasons, a mechanical control system accompanied it. The predecessors of the Gripen E-series included the JAS-39C version, upgraded to NATO standards with updated avionics and expanded ammunition and air refueling capabilities, and the JAS-39D, a two-seat version of the JAS-39C designed for training flights and specific missions. Apart from the basic modifications, there were also less typical versions of this Swedish fighter that were released. For example, the Gripen Aggressor is a cheaper version of the JAS-39C designed to be unarmed to simulate enemy fighters during combat training. The Gripen Maritime is a special version of the JAS-39E for aircraft carriers. And one of the most promising projects is the Gripen UCAV, an unmanned version of the JAS-39E. Development of the Gripen E fighter began in 2013. The country allocated about $2 billion for the first 3 prototypes, and mass production was scheduled to start in 2019. The same year, the company conducted the first flights of the new fighter jet. The total production volume was set at 400 to 500 aircraft for the Swedish Air Force and other countries around the world. Many experts argue, however, that the E-series was originally produced with the aim of attracting foreign customers. The main difference between the JAS-39E and the JAS-39C and D models is the increased survivability. This isn't the end of the E-Series advantages though. The Gripen not only got its range improved by increasing its fuel supply to 7,500 pounds, but also had its payload significantly increased at a whopping 11,200 pounds. The dimensions of the aircraft were also increased. Its length is now 49 feet versus the 46 feet on earlier models, and its empty weight is now 17,637 pounds versus the earlier 14,991 pounds. Production and flight hour costs are about $4,000 per hour versus the F-16's $7,000 to $8,000. And the Gripen has been and remains one of the most cost-effective fighters available today. In 2015, Saab announced an increase in demand for the Gripen from European nations amid growing aggression from Russia and tensions on the Russian-Ukrainian border. Swedish Defense Ministry officials supported the Saab bid for the HX fighter in Finland this winter, saying that the Gripen fighter would ensure cooperation between the countries in case of an attack from Russia. The Swedish defense minister also added that the security situation around the Baltic Sea has deteriorated, blaming the Russian military and calling cooperation between Nordic countries a prerequisite for preventing aggressive actions by Moscow. Their focus would be on Sweden and Finland as potential points of invasion by Russian troops. The Swedish Air Force has stated that their Gripen E is a black belt in air combat compared to the Sukhoi fighters, such as, for example, the 4th generation Su-35 fighters. While Sweden's counterparts in the United States are spending millions of dollars on stealth technology, due to limited funds, Swedish engineers have focused on a cheaper approach to fighting Russian fighters, focusing on electronic attack and software modification capabilities. According to the experts, this gives the planes an advantage over stealth. One of the key factors playing a role in the convenience of exporting the model was the updated software. It allows the fighter's functionality to be improved by installing software solutions without affecting the main operating system. The modular software installations is reminiscent of installing apps on a smartphone. If any program fails, it won't cause problems for the entire operating system that controls critical onboard equipment. That is, you can simply disable it without damaging the entire system. In addition to an effective electronic warfare system, the Gripen E will be able to fire almost all types of missiles produced in the US and Europe, such as the Meteor air-to-air missile, currently considered one of the most effective countermeasures against Russian jamming missiles. If we talk about the Swedish Gripen's rival fighter from the US side, we could take the F-15E Strike Eagle. The only head-to-head encounter between these two fighters was a large, loyal arrow exercise in which the F-15C acted as the aggressor. In the end, the Gripen managed to shoot down 2 F-15Cs, while the third escaped due to better weight and thrust characteristics. As for performance, the competition between the F-15E and the Swedish fighter depends directly on what the emphasis is on. In terms of avionics and simplicity, and most importantly cheap maintenance, the Gripen would be a good choice. But is there any point in saving on flight hours if you end up with worse speed, payload and armament in the Gripen than the F-15E? In terms of military power, the AMR/AAM and Sidewinder missiles used by the Silent Eagle are superior to the Gripen's Meteor and IRIS-T in every way. This is not to mention the fact that the F-15 has many years of experience in actual warfare, while its Swedish counterpart collects dust in the hangar, occasionally undergoing flight tests and trials. What do you think of this Swedish fighter jet? What feature impressed you the most? Be sure to tell us in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to stay in touch. See you soon.